Welcome, language learners, to Language Learning Wellness, the mindful podcast for all language learners who are looking for encouragement and more confidence along their journey. Now, if you are interested in working with me more closely after this episode, be sure to go to the description below to check out my Patreon community where you can network with other like-minded language learners, as well as my coaching membership, the Mindful Multilinguals Collective, if you want to 5 times your language confidence results this year. Let's get to the episode. Today, I want to bring you a short exercise that I love doing in order to investigate my subconscious attitudes towards a language that can always be really helpful in dismantling and transforming, those negative beliefs that we might have bubbling underneath the surface of what mental blocks, what emotional blocks and barriers we're experiencing in our language. Help us move past those effectively. First got this idea for the podcast because one of my coaching clients recently told me, I feel like German is an abusive relationship that I'm in with an actual person. And I reflected on this and I thought, this resonates all too much with what I'm going through with French. And maybe you have felt this way too in your own way. I'm thinking about this more as I have felt like I've spent so much time, even years, even decades, with a language only to feel blocked every time I try to open my mouth to speak, write in it, or otherwise interact through it. But in fact, imagining your language as a person, metaphorically, is extremely helpful in getting specific about our attitudes towards a language. Not kidding, it might sound silly, but hear me out. Especially if you notice yourself facing a mental or an emotional barrier that blocks you from actually enjoying your language and connecting with it the way that you want to, whether that be speaking it or otherwise. It is an essential part of investigation to identify our true deep attitudes towards a language and to deeply understand our unconscious biases or beliefs around why we feel the way that we do. That can say a lot about what emotional or mental barrier we're going through. Before we try to transform that emotional negative barrier into something more productive, something more positive. Again, what better way to do this than using our imagination? It breeds curiosity, it allows our defenses to lower, and it helps our resistance to change and facing ourselves go down. So again, the next time you face an emotional barrier in your learning, I highly suggest you try this exercise. So imagine your language metaphorically as a person, place, an object, an animal, whatever you think is best for you. Don't think too hard about it. Just go with what pops into your head. And then you ask yourself, where is he or she? You can either say this out loud, you can record yourself, you can journal it as well. After that, you can ask, where are you regarding your physical location to him or her? Are you below? Are you above? Are you to the right, to the left? However you want to put it. The next thing is ask yourself, how big is the distance between you? Next question is, how does he, she, or this object feel towards you? And then also, how do you feel towards him or her? Those were about 5 questions given in a lightning round, but jot those down and give yourself a good 30 minutes to investigate what is exactly holding you back, right? How are you in relation to this person, place, thing, object? And there are a lot of beliefs that can be uncovered with this technique, right? Such as, I can't connect to this culture because I have this bias that I think everyone in this culture is cold. Or I believe that I cannot connect to this language because I don't feel good enough and I'm trying to prove my worth. I'm trying to prove my intelligence through using this language, right? Through trying to speak advanced all the time or sophisticated or speaking well, right? When actually it's more productive to concentrate on more connection instead of trying to prove our worth, prove our intelligence through our language learning. So again, when you do this exercise in your own privacy of your own home, do take in mind it only works if we are completely honest with ourselves. Do expect that you will discover some limiting beliefs behind your language that'll help you in your reflection of how to confront and break down those emotional and mental barriers that you might be experiencing. Only when we understand how our limiting beliefs are impacting our attitudes towards the country of our target language, towards the people, towards the culture, that is really when we can do the most effective work in transforming them. We have to understand it first, though. Thank you for tuning in. If you are interested in working with me more closely and also supporting the podcast, do check out the Patreon community that I have crafted just for you, as well as learn more about my group coaching membership, the Mindful Multilinguals Collective. If you did enjoy this podcast, make sure to give a like if you're watching on YouTube, or rate the podcast as well if you are listening on Spotify or other podcast platforms. This podcast spreads the best by word of mouth, so make sure to let all of your language learning friends, acquaintances, coworkers, language institutions know about it if you think it's helpful for them. Take care, language learners, and we'll talk soon.